Welcome back to Donghua Recapped. In today's video I will be recapping Blue Submarine No. 6. It begins as we see a jet flying through the air. Some men in the submarine talk about the jet, looking around and seeing that the city has turned into a fallen wasteland. The buildings have been submerged in some green liquid, and the people are struggling to live through the chaos. A young girl called Mayumi heads towards a wrecked building, walking inside and showing distaste towards the idea of calling an outsider in on a mission. Suddenly, a guy called Tetsu startles her by pointing a gun at her, but he lowers the weapon when he realizes who she is. She begs him to come back to the Blue Fleet because they need his submariner skills, and we learn that they're fighting against someone called Zorndike who is bombarding them with attacks. He looks out the window and says he's leaving tomorrow, telling her to leave, but she tells him she isn't going anywhere, and tries to stay optimistic about the future of the world, but he tells her that the world is already over, and then suggests that she comes with him on his travels, but she leaves his home instead. She is visibly frustrated with his decision, and then she looks up to see Tetsu standing on the roof. The submarine continues to follow the jet, and the crew concludes that they can't keep up with it, as well as that the jet is heading for Blue 6. There are some structures buried underneath the water, and some strange alien-like creatures emerge. Tetsu feeds his dog and continues to think about the Blue Fleet situation, whilst he is looking at everything ahead of him from the roof. The battleships are suddenly blown up. Terror is caused as an unknown object crashes into some buildings, causing an explosion, and a huge robot with a glowing red eye comes out of the water. They smash their way through the buildings, enticing havoc among the people. Mayumi runs oppositely to everyone else as they tell her to do something about the robots. Helicopters attempt to destroy the robots, but they're easily defeated by the rockets. The war on the people continues as many citizens are either badly injured or killed, and Mayumi finds herself trapped in between two robots. However, Tetsu arrives and starts shooting at them ferociously, blowing them up with a grenade before speeding away in his boat. We see some of the enemies under the water talking about Blue 6, which has just been dispatched into action. Mayumi reports back to the captain, showing him that they brought back Tetsu, and the captain thanks him for his assistance before commanding the driver to dive into the sea. He talks about someone called Verg who has a key role on the enemy side, mentioning that the Phantom ship is heading towards them. Tetsu sits inside of a cockpit, and he tells Mayumi that he is staying there despite her telling him to get out. They're ready to leave, and just before they do they talk about the current state of the world as she says she wants to save her city before it's too late. Their fighter ship is dispatched, and he vigorously travels through the sea as they shoot some of the enemies surrounding them. Despite his recklessness, he is very skilled as the driver of the ship as he defeats another robot heading toward them. Another robot comes dangerously close to getting them, but once again Tetsu makes it blow up. They get to land where they jump out of the fighter ship, finding a mysterious object which turns out to be the remains of a defeated robot, and out of it comes a strange-looking woman who is clearly distressed. He touches her and she starts to freak out. He shows sympathy for it, but Mayumi tells him to get away from it, saying that it is an enemy. Tetsu tells her not to shoot, and then he picks her up, getting bitten in the process as he puts her into the water where she is seemingly a lot more calm. She lets out a loud scream before swimming off. Mayumi is confused about why he saved her, and then they hear thunderous noises coming from the sky. More robots are dispatched from the enemy, so the Blue 6 captain commands them to send fire. Rockets are sent toward the enemies, but then a huge sea creature is unleashed and comes right at them, so they go on top of the water to pass over the monster, before diving back in and sending more rockets at the creature, but it dodges these. Unexpectedly, another barrage of attacks is hurled toward it as the crew members identify that the Narushio submarine has come to assist them, and one final blast comes from the sea as they kill the sea monster. Mayumi waves goodbye to someone that she saved, and then she confronts Tetsu about letting the enemy go, and she explains that it was a monster that Professor Zorndike had created. Inside of the Phantom ship we see an uproar from the monsters and robots, who are hungry for revenge since one of their main assets was destroyed. Verg laughs it off and says that Blue 6 will now be at their most careless, and the Phantom ship starts to emerge from the sea. Tetsu's dog senses the presence of this and starts barking at it. More explosions commence, so the members on the submarine begin to panic, and they identify that the phantom ship is attacking them. The captain of the Narushio radios through, telling the Blue Six members to get back and that it isn't their battle to fight. This doesn't stop them though, as the captain of the Blue Six commands his crew members to continue pursuing the phantom ship, and they send a missile at it, landing a direct hit. They fire another missile, but it doesn't go as planned, and the phantom ship instead hits them with a missile in return, which causes havoc inside of the Blue Six. Everyone inside of the phantom ship is ecstatic about this, and inside the water tank in the ship the monsters swim around. The one that Tetsu saved earlier, whose name is Mushio, starts hyperventilating as another monster comes through a tube and is unconscious with blood coming from the nose. Tetsu sits down smoking a cigarette, and Mayumi walks in, asking the chef for some food for the crew members, and then she shouts at Tetsu for not helping out. They work together in a control room, and she says that the captain takes too many risks before continuing to shout at him for taking up too much space. Verg talks to Zorndike on a screen, referring to him as Papa and saying that they have inflicted lots of damage onto Blue Six. However, Zorndike tells him not to take too many risks, and then much to his disappointment he tells them to return home soon. Verg becomes enraged about this and starts attacking the other creatures on the ship. He starts touching Mushio and says he heard about Tetsu saving her on the land. The Blue Six submarine heads towards a base called the Blue Dome, and the members start joking around as they start docking at too great of a depth, to which the main on the loudspeaker says is dangerous and threatens to report them. The submarine finally enters the base, where there are many different bases, and Mayumi says excitedly that Operation Blue is planning on returning humanity to its once great condition, but Tetsu still shows pessimism about the possibility of this. Inside the base a meeting is being held, where the speaker says that all around the Earth there is an aurora, showing images of this on the screen, and telling them that Zorndike has also triggered a sudden pole shift which will inevitably eliminate the Earth's magnetic fields, and so he concludes that they must attack Zorndike's base, otherwise the future of mankind is doomed. He starts explaining the plan of attack that they need to execute to infiltrate the base, and makes it clear that they have no future if this mission fails. Following this speech, a woman called Guilford, who is the captain of the Blue One submarine, calls and says that her team is the primary team on the mission, and all they need is the backup of everyone else, which will ensure their victory. The signal starts to go as they realize that someone has managed to hack the signal, and then Zorndike appears on the screen. He begins to speak and says that mankind has grown too large and too full of hate, telling them that what he is doing is not murder. They become enraged at him, but he then disappears from the screen, which causes a huge uproar among all the members of the Blue Operation. A little girl sits in a chair and starts sweating profusely as she imagines a monster swimming toward her from the water. The mechanics on the Blue Six submarine get to work on fixing it up in preparation for the mission, and they talk about Tetsu, showing skepticism toward him despite his talent. He talks to Mayumi, and she says that nukes are the only option they have left, so he says that there is no difference between Zorndike and them. Walking away from her, he sees someone being carried away and chuckles at it, so one of the men stops and says that Tetsu makes him sick, telling him that he has no sense of responsibility or foresight of what they are trying to accomplish. Tetsu looks at the body and sees that it's someone who went to Zorndike's base, and we learn that he is the only person to ever return from Zorndike's base alive despite his severe injuries. The guy's name is Katsuma, and Tetsu feels immense guilt after the man tells him that it is his fault he turned out that way. The little girl comes out crying, so Mayumi attends to her, and she says that she hears the songs, however they're not dolphin or whale songs because those songs are happy, unlike these ones. Suddenly, the base starts shaking and warnings start popping up on the screen as enemies sent out from the phantom ship start attacking. Verg and his team are filled with joy, continuously sending strikes that eventually break through the primary system defense line. The captain notices that Tetsu is missing, and he is taking a ship from the base. He tells Mayumi that he has had enough and wants to directly attack the phantom ship. Despite her best efforts, he refuses to follow orders and goes out on his own. The attacks from Verg's team get more and more severe, landing several direct hits and causing a lot of damage to the base. The doctor who gave the speech tells everyone that they should get on an escape pod. Tetsu flies his ship amid the mayhem, and even gets hit whilst Zorndike once again appears on the screen and speaks to the doctor, saying that this result was only natural. Verg commands one final attack which causes a huge explosion. Despite his ship getting hit, Tetsu managed to get into an escape pod and sail down deeper into the sea. But that's where this video ends. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time.